Joining me now is Hassan Diab. He is in the studio. Mr. Diab, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I have to start with what your feeling was. You were with your family this morning as you awaited the news from the French Court of Appeal. When the Court of Appeal ruled that it needs a few more months to hear your case, what was your reaction?
Actually, to re-examine some documents, some French what's called the handwriting reports, and the defense also handwriting reports. And it was absolutely frustrating and unbelievably crazy thing to go through again and again and again. Especially we've heard, or we believed, that today would be the last chapter of this whole saga.
Because you had been told that the Court of Appeal already was supposed to rule, I believe, this summer, and then put it off until September, and then put it off again until October. So even the Court of Appeal has asked for complete more delays. Why are they asking for another handwriting analysis? Because from what I understand, there has been several times they've had handwriting analysis done. This is the allegation that there's handwriting that would leak you to this bombing.
It's true, actually. And the other thing is, the prosecutors in France appealed the decision within 5 or 10 minutes after my release, and the case was heard on April 11th, I believe, this year, and there was nothing. They didn't discuss the handwriting evidence or handwriting reports, and it came only this morning. And after what's called April 11th hearing, they decided to give to render the decision in July 6th, which also postponed it because they said, oh, we received a piece of paper from Greece. It was in Greek. It took 5 months to be translated, 3-4 pages only, actually. And usually they used to translate everything in through Google, but not this time. And then they asked to hear something or to deal with it in September, actually. Then October, yesterday, or this morning, actually.
For people who have not been following your case, but many of us have, how does this relate to the fact that in January, French judges found no evidence against you, and in fact evidence to suggest that you were not in Paris, you were in Lebanon? How does what was decided in January relate to what you're hearing from the French appeal court?
This is here we have to only speculate, and we are rightly speculating this time that there's a policy of delaying things, and apparently politics is prevailing over judicial process, because all the French judges, investigative judges, and French of what's called judges of liberty and detention, they all agreed that I should be out, and another person they were looking for, and actually they have all the evidence to exclude me from this whole thing. And they conducted 8 fingerprint and palm print analyses, 8 times. When you have something very scientific like this, you do it 8 times. It means there's something fishy.
So, in your mind, what's happening now with the French Court of Appeal? Is this politics?
It looks like politics is very much involved in the case to keep dragging the case. And this is what I said last time when they asked me on TV. I said they will drag it, and I don't believe they will maybe render a decision today. And I was right about this, and I don't know how long they will go with this.
At your press conference today, Donald Bain, your lawyer, suggested that that's the indication he has as well, that there's a lot of political pressure on the French prosecutors, that even notwithstanding all these decisions, that they're delaying the case. They just cannot let the court system accept that you were wrongfully, you weren't even charged, but you were wrongfully detained.
wrongfully extradited.
And extradited.
And with no charges. For 3 years and 2 months, sitting in French prison in solitary confinement, 20 to 22 hours daily in your cell, and doing nothing, just waiting for the investigation, which we go back here to the extradition law, which stipulates that you cannot extradite people to language in foreign prisons. And this is for investigation. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what happened here in this case.
I want to get to what your life has been over the last, since you come back to Canada, but now that you mentioned the extradition, a lot of your case also depends on this whole issue of Canada's Extradition Act. And I know your lawyer has been asking for a complete review of Canada's Extradition Act. The fact that a judge can have you extradited, even although he, in his ruling, said he felt the evidence was weak and there was very little chance of successful prosecution in a fair system.
Exactly.
And yet you were extradited. The Ontario government, the federal government has chosen a former Ontario Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Siegel, and they've chosen Murray Siegel to look into your case. Your lawyer says he doesn't feel, and you and the people who support you say you don't feel that's enough to have this particular investigation that was named by our Justice Minister. That's not enough.
It's this what's so-called public or external review, as they are doing now, it has no legal teeth, if you want. Mm-hmm. It cannot compel anybody to come forward. He cannot subpoena anyone. He cannot order any, force witnesses or anything like this. This is the difference between this toothless program or review and the public inquiry, which is a legal one, where the a judge or a former judge can force witnesses to testify, can subpoena people, emails, communication, and we know from the communication now, the CBC's obtained letter from the Justice Department to the French investigative judge at the time to suggest how to beef up the case, not to prove innocence or anything, no, just how to make the case go fast and just to extradite me to France, regardless of the suppressed elements they had, the fingerprints at the time analysis. The French had them long time ago, 2007.
They suppressed evidence, or it was found that they suppressed evidence of your presence in Lebanon and not in Paris at the time in question.
They suppressed the evidence of the fingerprints and negative results. And they didn't tell the Canadian court about it, though one of the tests was done on the Canadian soil here by the RCMP.
So you don't feel that you and your lawyer and your supporters and Amnesty International, the people behind you, supporting you, you don't feel that, first of all, there'll be even a proper inquiry about what happened to you, then there won't be an extensive enough look into our Extradition Act and the shortcomings in it, and even the role of Canadian justice officials in extraditing you. What about your life? You are at Carleton University. You're still teaching.
I'm teaching one course now.
So you've gotten back. You're teaching.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Every time I try to rebuild up my life again, and then you have a new decision or a delay, and it looks like they don't want you to finish with this long ordeal. They want to keep you always under threat.
So your employer and a lot of people around you have stood by you, but what else do you suffer in terms of not ever being completely cleared by French authorities? Is it the stress? Is it the stigma?
It is the combination of all these negative things and the stress. The kids, every time I go out, the kids ask their mom if I'm coming back today or not. The kids know so much and feel so much and feel the stress, and everybody else in the house. Always we have to prepare, we have to do, and plus the dragging this case over and over costs you energy, time, stress, and you name it. And
What have you learned? Well, first of all, what has helped you get through all of this?
Mainly the family, the public support, also the friends and supporters. But the family was like tremendous. My wife Rania Tfaili did a lot. She was also with the lawyer Don Bain. They were leading this whole public campaign here in Canada.
And the message you have for people watching this today?
To really put pressure on the government, to tell the government to start doing serious business, to do the public inquiry, which would lead eventually to fixing the extradition law. Well, we send people to countries they don't reciprocate. Like, we extradite to France. France doesn't extradite its citizens. Let's have a little bit of dignity here and self-respect.
And the hope is other people will not find themselves in the situation that you found yourself in.
And exactly, we don't need to see similar cases in the future, and that's why we are pushing to change this extradition law. To change it like drastically, because its structure allows the government or any government to claim any citizen. You can go on very short notice.
So the hope is January, this may finally be the final chapter of this particular legal battle?
Well, the process is going as if this summer will be the end of it.
So it starts again in January to finish in the summer?
No, it's by February. They
Right.
should, by February 15th, they should submit the report. They appointed a new investigative judge in France to oversee the reports, examinations, and so on. And they submit the report by February 15th. Then they debate it in the court, defense and the prosecutor, and then they decide on a date for a decision like they did before.
You told me something interesting before you came to sit with us at this table. You're teaching a sociology course. What course are you teaching?
Well, I designed this course, especially after I came back. It's called Power and Miscarriages of Justice. And I think the title tells you a lot about it.
Drawing from personal experience, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Like, so much about the law here, about the law in France, and I had to read about the legal system there, and the legal system here, and the wrongful convictions, miscarriages of justice around in this country.
I want to thank you very much for coming in, and we'll continue to watch your case with great interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.